Toronto police are looking for a man they say assaulted 3 women on TTC property. The victims described as total strangers. We'll tell you more.
And Ontario's top doc says 6 babies were recently born with measles since an outbreak began last fall. Their mothers were not vaccinated. We hear from medical experts tonight.
Plus, gridlock on the Gardiner. New numbers reveal travel times have doubled in 1 year due to construction. We're out speaking with drivers this hour.
And plus, DoorDash is in hot water after being sued by the Competition Bureau over prices and discounts. The company accused of misleading customers. We're going to take a closer look.
You're watching Live at 5.
Good evening. I'm Bakari Savage.
And I'm Lena Latafat. Thanks for joining us and welcome to Live at 5. Defense lawyers representing 5 former members of Canada's World Junior Hockey team have begun their final submissions this week.
Right now, let's go live to CTV's Heather Wright, who joined us from London, Ontario. Heather, good evening. Tell us more about what you heard in the courtroom today.
Well, it was a day in court, a long day in court, where we heard from 2 of the lawyers representing 2 of the accused in this case. And really, we're getting a better idea of how they are framing their closing submissions, really taking a look at the testimony from EM, the complainant in this case, and saying that her version of events doesn't match what they have been hearing from their clients. They're saying that what started as a white lie, is what we heard from one of the lawyers, has really spiraled into these allegations, and that this was a consensual night in this hotel room 7 years ago, and that this only came to light, these allegations only came to light because of regret. Now, that, of course, is according to one of the lawyers. What we have heard throughout this case, though, is from the complainant that this was a night that she went back to a hotel room to have consensual sex with Michael McLeod, but then other players were invited to the room, and she did not consent to having, sexual acts with those players. But she was so afraid, so terrified to leave that she played along until it was safe to do so. We're hearing a counter narrative from the defense attorneys today as they wrap up their closing submissions, presenting this to the judge and the judge alone, as we know that the jury was dismissed in this trial and it is now being tried by judge alone.
Okay, and Heather, give us a sense of what happens next and when could the judge deliver her ruling here?
Well, we wrapped up day 1 today. We are going to hear from the other defense attorneys over the next several days, and then we will hear from the Crown as well. And it could take several weeks or even months for the judge to render a verdict. Now, keep in mind, there are 5 men on trial here. Each lawyer is having an opportunity to present their closing arguments, and then the Crown will present the closing arguments in their case. So not only is this going to take perhaps most of the week to get through all of these closing statements, the judge will then have to return to the testimony and the facts of the case in this case before she can render her verdict. And really what this all boils down to is the issue of consent, and also, as we heard from the lawyers today, credibility and reliability. They are painting the complainant in this case as an uncredible witness, as an uncredible complainant, saying that she changed her stories multiple times over the course of being interviewed by police. And so they're really trying to poke holes in the narrative that the Crown has presented, saying that this was all consensual, what happened 7 years ago. Of course, we're hearing from the defense attorneys now. The Crown will have a much different story to paint once we hear from them in the coming days.
All right, continuing our live coverage from London, Ontario, CTV's Heather Wright. Heather, thank you.
Thanks.
Well, turning now to some disturbing allegations on TTC property. Police have identified a suspect wanted in 3 assaults in the East End.
And CTV's, or rather CP24's crime analyst Steve Ryan joins us live from the Broadview station with the latest on the search for the man. Steve.
Yeah, but Coriolanna, so what differentiates a suspect from an accused is a formal charge. So in this particular case, the Toronto police have charged this 61-year-old man whose picture we're going to show you. His name is Moisey Walder Miriam, and they've charged him with 3 counts of assault and 1 count of breaching his probation. So even without a physical body, the police can lay a charge if they have reasonable grounds to believe. So in this particular case, there's an arrest warrant out for this man's arrest. That means that any time he's investigated for any matter, even if somebody's looking into something he's done with regards to a parking tag, and they run this man's name, they will see that there's a warrant for his arrest. So he is arrestable, and once he is arrested, he'll be brought back to this jurisdiction where he will face these three serious charges, or four charges rather, 3 assaults and 1 breach of probation. So this goes to allegations that start in January, February, and June. Police allege in those 3 different months, this accused assaulted 3 different women randomly and unprovoked. So it's very concerning for police when you have somebody committing unprovoked, random, violent attacks on other people. In this particular case, we have 3 women that were assaulted, the allegations are, and the last assault happened here on June the 5th at Broadview Station. The police say that this man assaulted a woman and then fled on foot, so they are actively looking for him right now. So again, have a look at his picture. If you know where he is, give the police a call, because they can go attend to his location and act on the strength of that arrest warrant and arrest this person and put him before the courts to face these very serious stranger on stranger violent attacks, 3 counts of assault and 1 count of breaching his probation. I'll send it back to you guys.
All right, Steve Ryan reporting live from outside Broadview Station. Thank you for this, Steve. Well, police have made an arrest in a deadly stabbing from earlier this year.
38-year-old Paola Mota was found suffering from stab wounds. This is in the Dover Court Road and Geary Avenue area. This was February 21st. He died in hospital 3 days later. Police announced today that 44-year-old Maria Rivero has been charged with second-degree murder. Mota was the city's 4th homicide victim of the year. Anyone with information about the case, you are asked to call police or Crime Stoppers.
Over in York Region, police are appealing for witnesses following a deadly weekend on the roads.
Police say on Sunday afternoon, 2 SUVs collided at Jane Street and 16th Side Road in King Township. A 93-year-old passenger in one of the vehicles suffered severe head injuries, dying at the scene. The 95-year-old driver was seriously injured, while 5 occupants of the other vehicle were taken to a local hospital.
Well, police say on Saturday afternoon, a motorcycle and transit bus collided at Jane and Amadea Avenue in Vaughan. An off-duty nurse provided treatment to the male rider, but he died of his injuries on the way to hospital. And on Friday night, a pickup truck and SUV collided at 8th Concession and 15th Side Road, leaving 1 person in life-threatening condition and 2 with serious injuries. Witnesses or anybody with dash cam footage in any of these incidents is asked to call York Police.
Well, the TTC took a streetcar out of service over the weekend after a syringe was found underneath a seat.
Yeah, that syringe was found on a 501 Queen streetcar on Saturday morning. The person who found it tells CP24 they told 2 TTC employees at the time, but the streetcar remained in service and the syringe was not disposed of during the duration of their trip. A TTC spokesperson says the incident was reported through the Safe TTC app, at which time the streetcar was immediately taken out of service and returned to the car house, where the syringe was safely disposed of and the car thoroughly cleaned.
Okay, we're just about at 5:08. Let's get a check on the evening commute with CP24's traffic specialist, Adjoa Intiayaboa.
Yeah, Bakari, it has been quite the busy afternoon. And if you're making your way out, it's good patience is what you're going to need if you're trying to get to where you're headed, especially on the 400 northbound, running into problems northbound on the 400. This is right around the 407. You'll find the left lane blocked because of this crash. Again, it's really slowing down the drive from well before Finch. I'd suggest maybe using Jane or Weston, good alternatives just to get you by. Also problems involving a collision on the westbound 401. This is in the collectors at Victoria Park. It's the right lane and shoulder blocked following this ongoing crash. Eastbound 401 in the Express through Kiel, still transport off to the side with heavy tow, but the right lane is occupied. And we've been talking about the travel times on the Gardiner, still very busy as you make your way into and out of the downtown core. Definitely want to double, maybe even triple your time if that is your route. I'll send it back to you both.
This CP24 traffic report is brought to you by 407 ETR. Enjoy the journey with a stress-free commute.
Well, we were just talking about the drive. Now let's talk about the commute. If you're a rider, there's an early nightly closure to be aware of this week on a portion of Line 1.
Subways are going to be replaced by shuttle buses between Finch and Eglinton from 11 p.m. until 2 a.m. tonight through Thursday. The TTC says that the early closure is to accommodate track work. Lawrence and North York Center will be closed, but all other stations will remain open for customers to purchase fares and connect to surface routes.
To the roads now, where rush hour is well underway, as Adjoa was talking about, and a new report finds the latest phase of construction on the Gardiner is further slowing traffic. In fact, in some cases, travel times have doubled in the last year.
On CP24's Melissa Duggan joins us live with a closer look at the new numbers. Melissa, the numbers don't lie.
Yeah, and probably not coming as a huge surprise to motorists right now. We're talking about the stretch from Highway 27 to Cherry Street, the Gardiner travel time along it doubling in a year due to this ongoing construction. The latest numbers coming from a study to us by Altitude by Geotab. It's a mobility data analytics software company. It also looked at the most congested areas of the Gardiner. There it was even worse. We're talking about an increased delay of 230% this year. Let's get some reaction to all of this. Joining us live now is Maddie Simiatiki, professor of geography and planning and director of the Infrastructure Institute at the University of Toronto. Thanks so much for being with us today.
Sure. Thanks for having me, Melissa.
So this study, not a shocker to drivers, including the ones who are stuck on the Gardiner right beside me right now. I wonder what your reaction to this study is.
These results will surprise no one. Everyone who's been on the Gardiner recently has experienced what this study found, that the construction that's taking place has led to huge increases in traffic volumes, in travel times. It's cascading outwards onto the lakeshore as well. So this is just an unmitigated disaster for motorists and for businesses, for people trying to get goods into the city center. This is costing a fortune. It's wasting everyone's time. It's frustrating people. This is just another lesson of how we have to plan construction to move a lot quicker and enable our city to keep moving.
You mentioned costs there. I wonder what are the greater costs to having slowdowns along this Gardiner for years?
Well, everyone's time has a cost. Those are just for motorists. Then you can add all the goods that have to come into the city. Think that everything that we consume in the city of Toronto, in the downtown core, is coming there in one way or another on a truck. And that truck probably came on the Gardiner Expressway, the Don Valley Parkway, or some other way into town. So everything is more expensive and fewer people are coming into the city even just at the time that we're trying to recover from the pandemic and the city center and its businesses have been slower. So really the costs of this are huge and they just cascade outwards from this construction all the way out and ripple through the city.
I don't know about you, but when I talk to people from outside of the city and say that I'm from Toronto, they say the traffic, how do you live with it? I wonder what this kind of congestion does for the city's reputation.
We are getting a reputation as a place that it's hard to get around, and that has an impact on businesses making choices and where people want to travel. The downtown core is so important. There's all these office buildings, there's great restaurants and opportunities for recreation and socializing, but people won't come there, and we will get a reputation. We've heard it from stars like Tom Cruise, who said, "What is the story with traffic in Toronto?" We've heard it from Will Ferrell. We've had musicians having to walk to their shows. This starts to damage our reputation, and it really is a reflection that we have to do better and get a handle on both the construction and the bigger picture that there's just too many cars and not enough space.
It does always go viral when we get those images of, athletes walking to their games in the city as well because they can't get there any other way. Now, we did hear from the province in April saying that their injection of $73 million is speeding up this process, work being done 24/7. And that means that things are going to get done about 15 months earlier than expected. So wrapping up likely early 2026 instead of April 2027. What does that kind of timeline mean for a project like this?
Anything we can do to accelerate these projects is positive. We should be looking at that for all projects right from the beginning instead of having to swoop in after the fact when people are already stuck in these big jams. We can be planning better. We need to think about how we allocate our machinery. We need to be using customized machinery, thinking about how we can use modular construction, and also the labor force. How frustrating is it when you're driving on that stretch and it's packed with traffic and then you look at the construction site and there's very few people working there? If you look at other countries where they go faster, they use heavy machinery, they plan the job in advance, and then it's like a choreographed ballet on that street to make sure that this is going quickly with a big crew of workers to get these jobs done fast because the costs are so huge to our economy and to everyone's time and quality of life.
Quite the dusty ballet we're seeing these days. Professor Maddie Simiatiki, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate your perspective on this.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, so Lena and Bakari, a bit of a breakdown there of the study that we saw come out today, talking about how travel times have doubled over a year due to construction along the Gardiner. I'm looking out at it over right now. We heard it from Adjoa today. Pack your patience, as always, until early 2026, it looks like. Back to you.
Yeah, that seems to be the message every single day. Melissa, thanks so much for this. Glad you are not behind the wheel right now. It's 5:15, 23 degrees. You're watching Live at 5.
And coming up, DHL Express has locked out workers across Canada, prompting Unifor to launch a strike in response. Well, 6 infants have been born with congenital measles. This is since the outbreak began last fall.
Yeah, CTV News spoke to Ontario's top doctor about this. For more on that message from Dr. Kieran Moore, we're joined live by CP24's Phil Perkins. Phil.
Hey there, Lena and Bakari. That's right. We first got to backtrack to say that measles in this country was basically eradicated decades ago, and now it's making a resurgence. Dr. Kieran Moore saying back in the fall that this started during a Mennonite wedding in New Brunswick. One of the guests got infected, brought it back to their hometown in southwestern Ontario, just outside of London, and that's where the outbreak really started, and it has spread from there. And now we're seeing an outbreak in a situation where we didn't think we'd find ourselves in just a couple decades ago. But he did release a report saying that 6 babies, newborns, were born with measles. And that is due to their unvaccinated mothers. Luckily, they all recovered, but this could have been so much worse. There are complications that lead to being born with measles, including inflammation of the brain and death. And that is exactly what happened last Thursday. We understand a premature baby born with measles later died. Kieran Moore also mentioned in that situation that baby had multiple other challenges when it was brought to this world. He also mentions that since the outbreak in the fall, 40 moms have contracted measles. 2 were vaccinated. And so here's what he had to say with CTV News about some precautions people need to take now in order to prevent not only them getting measles, but if they do eventually become pregnant, passing it down potentially to their kids.
It's a key measure and a key message that vaccination, which is safe, effective, is our means of preventing these types of harms in pregnancy. You should be vaccinated before getting pregnant. And in that way, it'll have the greatest benefit and effect. And you have to remember, it also provides protection against rubella. We haven't had congenital rubella cases in Canada in a very long time, but that is a risk, and that virus it causes significant harm to the unborn as well.
Now, you did mention, you should have been already vaccinated against measles. It's 2 shots. You probably should have gotten it when you turned 1 year old and a short time later after that. But if you still are unvaccinated and you are pregnant, you're living in an area that has active measles cases, Dr. Kieran Moore suggests that mom isolate and not be around those people potentially. You could take an IV immunoglobulin, which could help reduce the chances. However, as Dr. Kieran Moore has mentioned, there are certain people who might resist that the same way there are others who resist the vaccine. And he said a key here, Bakari and Lena, is to try to get to that population, that one in southwestern Ontario, to try to let them know the potential harms that they could be doing, not just to themselves, but to any unborn children later down the road. Back to you.
Right.
Okay, joining us live from the newsroom, CP24's Phil Perkins. Phil, thank you. Well, DHL Canada is continuing to move packages despite a lockout and strike.
Yeah, the carrier locked out about 2,100 unionized employees yesterday, including drivers, warehouse, and call center staff. Unifor, which represents the workers, kicked off a strike on the same day. DHL confirmed today it has brought in temporary replacement workers and that it does not anticipate any significant service disruptions. The union's blasting the company for hiring so-called scabs.
This flies in the face of legislation that we have on the books federally. Technically, that legislation, of course, is not fully into force until June 20th. But the fact that DHL has decided to use replacement labor in this dispute, knowing that every single member of our parliament voted in favor of this new law to support fair and free collective bargaining, is just outrageous by this global corporation, and our union will not stand for it.
I've been on this picket line since Saturday night. And just about an hour ago, about 9 a.m., they brought in a bus of scab workers and management. A lot of independent people that we don't know who they are, scab workers to do our jobs that we normally do.
We don't have a control legally to stop anybody from going and do our work or whatever. That's between the management and, but it just shows how much they care about their employees, and they will go to the extent that they're going to hold the end and to pay us at what they're paying us.
Well, DHL says its actions are fully compliant with current legislation, and it is committed to negotiating with the union in good faith. So Unifor says it's seeking improved working conditions and fair wages.
521, 23 degrees. You're watching Live at 5.
Prime Minister Mark Carney spent the day in Toronto to make an announcement on Canada's defense spending.
Welcome back. Prime Minister Mark Carney was in Toronto today, where he announced that Ottawa will boost defense spending by billions of dollars, putting Canada on track to finally meet NATO's target this fiscal year.
For more on this, let's turn to CP24's Andrew Brennan, who joins us live from the newsroom. Andrew.
Well, Bakari, Lena, as much as it's seemingly a done deal that Canada will, after decades of not meeting this, well, for a long time, an arbitrary benchmark of 2% that was formalized in 2014, and something that had renewed an emphatic, not even suggestions, but pushing from member states in 2021 and afterwards, following the invasion of Ukraine by Russia. Well, yes, as Canada seemingly is about to hit the 2% target this year, this fiscal year, the goalposts, it seems, are already being moved, signaling with NATO meeting next month in Brussels that it could be a 5% threshold going forward, only though of that 3.5% of GDP spending being tied particularly to what they would call hard defense. But with all of this in mind, ultimately, the way that the Prime Minister put it today is that Canada is at a crossroads, the world is at a crossroads, and something you don't hear outside of a critical theory class talking about hegemony, the American cultural institution at large, how it controls world order. He says America is attempting to monetize its hegemony in this day and age between the Arctic, between the United States, between Russia and China, and actors online. Carney says there's a lot that Canada needs to plan and spend to protect from.
We will change the way we arm the men and women who serve, so we can fight on new battlegrounds in unfamiliar territory, so we can defend every inch of our sovereign territory, from seafloor to the Arctic to cyberspace, so we can protect Canadians, our interests, and our allies.
Now, if you look at how much of Canada's gross domestic product ultimately is 2%, Lena Bakari, for the fiscal year 2024-25, it would be roughly $65 billion. And Canada is about $30 billion as of last planning to get to that mark. According to the Prime Minister, there will be $9 billion in new cash flowing this year, and the rest will be made up in spending, ultimately getting us to that long talked about 2% GDP threshold this year. Back to you both.
Okay, joining us live from the newsroom, CP24's Andrew Brennan. Andrew, thank you. Right now it's 5:26, 23 degrees. This is Live at 5.
Coming up, a judge has dismissed Justin Baldoni's $400 million defamation lawsuit against Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds. We're going to have reaction straight ahead. Welcome back. A judge has dismissed Justin Baldoni's $400 million defamation lawsuit against Blake Lively and her husband, Ryan Reynolds.
So Baldoni sued the couple, alleging that they sought to destroy him and his career. Baldoni and Lively co-starred in the movie It Ends With Us, with Baldoni also directing. So Lively's lawyers accused Baldoni of sexually harassing her while filming. Lively's lawyers, they're calling the ruling a total victory and complete vindication. So the judge says Baldoni's legal team can still amend the claims if they choose to, with the deadline of June 23rd.
5:30, 23 degrees out there. You're watching Live at 5.
Okay, here's a live look at the Gardiner. Why? Because a new study finds that travel times have doubled on the Expressway. We're going to take a closer look with Melissa Duggan coming up. Toronto police are looking for a man they say assaulted 3 women on TTC property. Here's a live look. You can see a TTC bus right there. The victims, they're all described as strangers. We're going to tell you more coming up.
Ontario's top doctor says 6 babies were recently born with measles since an outbreak began last fall. Their mothers were unvaccinated. We hear from medical experts tonight.
Gridlock on the Gardiner. New numbers reveal travel times. They've doubled in 1 year due to construction. Here's a live look at the Gardiner. We are out speaking with drivers.
Plus, DoorDash is in hot water tonight after being sued by the Competition Bureau over prices and discounts. The company accused of misleading customers. We'll take a closer look.
This is Live at 5.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us. I'm Lena Latafaz.
I'm Bakari Savage. We begin on the roads. This is where rush hour is well underway.
Yeah, and a new report finds the latest phase of construction on the Gardiner is further slowing traffic. In some cases, travel times have doubled. Our Melissa Duggan joins us live with a closer look at the new numbers. She's also got reaction to it. As one expert put it, this is a surprise to no one, Melissa.
Yeah, if you're late for work, just print out this study and slap it on your boss's desk. A great excuse if you're not making it there on time. Breaking down the status of the Gardiner right now, saying that travel times have doubled in a year due to ongoing construction, and some areas even worse than that. Congestion, increased delay by 230% in some very troublesome areas this year. The news numbers coming to us from Altitude by Geotab. It's a it's a mobility data analytics software company, and really just looking at the traffic that we've been dealing with due to this construction. Let me break down some of these trouble areas that we're concentrating on. For example, taking drivers 24 minutes to travel between Humber to Strawn Avenue during peak commuting hours. That, by the way, is triple the 8-minute average from before construction. The drive from Jarvis to Dufferin Streets, it has nearly tripled, going from an average of 11 minutes during the good old days during peak hours to 30 minutes as of last month. And then just last month, a new portion of construction started between Dufferin and Strawn for this critical rehabilitation work. That saw an average of morning peak travel time of 40 minutes. That's compared to just 23 minutes before all of this construction started. We were talking with Maddie Simiaticki. He's a professor of geography and planning at the University of Toronto, getting his reaction to the study. Here's some of it.
Everyone who's been on the Gardiner recently has experienced what this study found, that the construction that's taking place has led to huge increases in traffic volumes, in travel times. It's cascading outwards onto the lakeshore as well. So this is just an unmitigated disaster for motorists and for businesses, for people trying to get goods into the city center. This is costing a fortune. It's wasting everyone's time. It's frustrating people. This is just another lesson of how we have to plan construction to move a lot quicker and enable our city to keep moving.
And you might be watching this at home right now, waiting for someone to come home for dinner, and they might be late due to this tons of congestion on the Gardiner that I'm looking at right over my shoulder right now. There is some good news on the horizon, though. In April, we did hear from the provincial government. They were injecting more funding into all of this, $73 million into the construction project, meaning that work would be happening 24/7. And that is expected to see the project finish about 15 months early than originally scheduled. So we were looking at an end date of about April 2027. Now it looks like things could wrap up early next year, so early 2026, and when we could finally start rolling along the Gardiner a little more easy. Back to you.
Until then, the brutal drive continues. Melissa, thanks so much. Melissa Duggan, live by the Gardiner tonight. And staying on the roads, let's get a check on that drive with Adjoa and CIAB. Why they're at.
Hey, Lena, yeah, it is a brutal drive. There's no real relief for commuters. And watching a problem on the Gardiner where times have doubled, as we've learned. If you're on the westbound lanes of the Gardiner, not seeing too much of a delay at this end of the Gardiner on the westbound side, but watching problems. It's the ramp that takes you to Jarvis. It's the right lane that's blocked to the stall. I will give you a peek at the Gardiner, which is Again, still very busy through the core as you make your way into and out of the downtown core. Long-term road work is the culprit. Traveling towards the 410, this is the northbound 410. It's the exit ramp that takes you to Steeles. Center lane blocked because of this stalled transport truck. And if you're traveling onto the 401, it looks like, yep, there are problems. This is the 401 westbound in the Express, just as you make your way on the approach to Mississauga Road. Right lane and shoulder blocked following another stall. On city streets, crews on scene of a collision blocking lanes on Davenport near Avenue Road. I'll send it back to you both.
All right, thanks, Aj.
Welcome.
Well, a motocross racer has died after a crash at a speedway in Welland.
Niagara police say it happened Saturday night during a flat track race at Welland County Motorcycle Club and Speedway. 29-year-old Tyler Seguin was later pronounced dead. In a statement, the Speedway says he was a lifelong part of the club and a Canadian national champion. The cause of the crash is under investigation tonight.
Okay, turning now to some disturbing allegations on TTC property.
Yeah, police have identified a suspect wanted in 3 separate assaults in the East End. CP24's crime analyst Steve Ryan joins us live from Broadview Station with the latest on the search for the man. So police have a suspect photo to share with the public. I guess it's just a matter of tracking him down now, Steve.
Yeah, that's right, Lena. And this man's gone from a suspect to an accused. And the difference is when formal charges are before the courts. Even without a body, if the police identify who they believe is responsible based on reasonable grounds, which I define as beyond mere suspicion, they can lay an information or a charge sheet that goes before the court. And that makes somebody go from a suspect into an accused. So this man now is an accused person, accused of 3 assaults at 3 different locations on TTC property, 1 in January, 1 in February, and 1 this past Thursday, June the 5th. And in all 3 occurrences, police allege that the victims were women, that these were violent, unprovoked attacks. So they have now taken out an arrest warrant for this man. We're showing you his picture right now. He's identified as 61-year-old Moisey Walder Merriam. He is arrestable by police. All they need is to find him. So they are asking for the public's assistance. If you know him, you know where he works, you know where he hangs out, you know where he lives, give the police a call, and they will certainly attend and make an arrest and put this man before the court. So very concerning. Again, 3 separate occurrences on TTC property, all 3 attacks unprovoked. And it is something when you are a law enforcement manager, anytime you have random attacks of violence anywhere in the city, it certainly is a cause for concern. I would be curious to know, the allegations are an attack in January and February. What happened in March, April, and May? There are no allegations of any assaults by then, but the last one this past Thursday, June the 5th, here at Broadview Station. So the police are anxious to find him. Again, have a look at his photo. We'll have it on our website. If you think you know where he is, you think you know where he lives, you think you know where he hangs out, or you see him on the street, give the police a call, and they will certainly attend and arrest him and put him before the courts. I'll send it back to you guys.
All right, Steve, thanks so much. So police want everybody to take a very good look at that photo of the accused. We want to mention we did reach out to the TTC for comment. Here's what they said to us in a statement. Safety is our top concern as always. We've been cooperating with police, providing whatever potential evidence we have available so they can make a quick arrest.
Well, also on the TTC, they took a streetcar out of service over the weekend after a syringe was found underneath the seat.
Yeah, that syringe was found on a 501 Queen streetcar on Saturday morning. The person who found it tells CP24 they told 2 TTC employees at the time, but the streetcar remained in service and the syringe was not disposed of during the duration of their trip. A TTC spokesperson says the incident was reported through the Safe TTC app, at which time the streetcar was immediately taken out of service and returned to the car house where the syringe was safely disposed of and the car thoroughly cleaned.
Well, a 2-alarm fire has been damaged, or rather has damaged multiple homes in the beach.
It happened at Queen Street East and Wheeler Avenue, just east of Woodbine. Police received reports of 3 homes on fire in that area just after 10 o'clock last night. No injuries have been reported. An investigation into the cause is underway, but officials indicate it could have been electrical.
More than 700 people have boarded evacuation flights in northwestern Ontario as a wildfire continues to burn out of control.
The fire is threatening Sandy Lake First Nation, prompting mass evacuations in the community of about 2,000 people. The Canadian Armed Forces were called in over the weekend after the wildfire doubled in size to over 1,500 square kilometers. Officials say the fire burned through 40 kilometers in a 24-hour period and was about 6 kilometers away from the community by last night.
Right now it's 5:41, 23 degrees. This is Live at 5.
CTV News spoke to Ontario's top doctor today about the measles outbreak in the province. We'll tell you how it's affecting unvaccinated women.
Well, 6 infants, they've been born with congenital measles since the outbreak began last fall.
CTV News spoke to Ontario's top doctor about this today. And for more on the message from Dr. Karen Moore, we turn to CP24's Phil Perkins. So can women who are pregnant get the vaccine, Phil? What's the messaging there?
Okay, so the message, we're going to get to Dr. Isaac Bogosh, infectious disease specialist, about it. If you are an unvaccinated pregnant woman, there are certain measures that you could take if you wanted to hopefully not pass measles down to your child. One of them is to isolate. If you find yourself in a community that has active cases, in particular in southwestern Ontario near London, that is really one of the breeding spots of measles and the outbreak here in this province. And here is Dr. Isaac Bogosh. We spoke with her at the 4:30 hour on what some of the options are for pregnant women when it comes to trying to prevent measles and some of its outcomes.
The measles vaccine it's a 2-dose vaccine. It's given, first dose is given at the first year of life. It has some very significant protection, but it's better to get the second dose as well. The second dose is usually given before a child enters school. But it's a live attenuated vaccine, which means there's some people who should not be getting this vaccine, including women who are pregnant and people who are immunocompromised. So, for example, if a pregnant woman is exposed to measles and they're not immune, they still can get a product. It's called immunoglobulin. And if they get this product close in proximity in time enough to when they were exposed to measles, it will significantly reduce their chance of getting this infection.
So why are we talking about this? That's because the province of Ontario's top doctor, Dr. Karen Moore, reported that 6 newborns were born with measles, and they got it not from the outside world, they got it from their mother. About 40 pregnant women got measles. Only 2 of them were vaccinated. Luckily, 6 recovered. However, it could be much worse, and it was worse for one child, a premature baby last Thursday, born with measles. Died. They also had other complications while they were born as well. They had to point that out, but still, newborn baby died with measles. And so that is why Dr. Karen Moore is going out there saying that, make sure you check your vaccination records. You should have gotten it, as Dr. Isaac Bogosh said, you should have gotten it when you were 1 year old and again closer to school age. But if you have not, now is the opportunity to do that. You can get the 1 shot, and that should give you a good enough protection with that. And in terms of trying to squash this outbreak as best as they can, Dr. Karen Moore says that he's trying to speak to the population that unfortunately is seemingly the place where this measles outbreak is starting, and that is the Mennonite community just outside London, Ontario. He traces it back to the outbreak in the fall during a Mennonite wedding in New Brunswick. One of the people went there, got it, came back to Ontario, and it has spread since then. So in the end, 6 newborns with measles. They've recovered. Unfortunately, last week, 1 did succumb to measles, among other complications. But at the end of the day, if you haven't gotten vaccinated to measles, just do it. Back to you.
Yeah, we have to remember that measles was once fully eradicated.
Yeah.
So this is totally preventable. Phil, thanks so much for this. It's 5:47, 23 degrees. You're watching Live at 5.
Well, 700 Marines are expected to be deployed to Los Angeles after protesters clash with police over immigration raids. The latest on the situation in moments. 700 Marines are expected to be deployed to Los Angeles. This is after protesters clashed with police in L.A. over immigration raids.
Immigration and Customs Enforcement agents and other federal officers raided several locations on Friday, sparking mass demonstrations. President Trump made the rare move to call up 2,000 National Guard members to try to quell the protests in L.A. Several people were arrested, and officers used tear gas and rubber bullets to disperse the crowds.
And California Governor Gavin Newsom says that he's planning to sue the Trump administration to roll back the deployment of the National Guard. He says that it was an illegal, immoral, and unconstitutional act. It's the first time since 1960 that a president activated the military against the wishes of the state governor. California's attorney general is also planning legal action against Trump, claiming that the state's sovereignty was trampled by the president's actions.
Canada's Competition Bureau is taking legal action against DoorDash for what it says are deceptive marketing practices.
The Bureau's accusing DoorDash of drip pricing, which is when mandatory fees are added at checkout. Those are extra charges. They're for service, delivery, expanded range, small orders, and for costs associated with regional regulations. So DoorDash says it does not hide fees from consumers or mislead them in any way.
For more on this, we're joined by Tony Chapman, host of the Chatter That Matters podcast. Good to see you, Tony, and thanks so much for joining us.
Always a pleasure to be with you.
So what stands out to you here about this lawsuit?
Well, DoorDash has got to change their name to DoorCash because allegedly they've taken over $1 billion in 10 years out of consumers' pockets with this shell game. And this is serious allegations. If it's proven to be true, they're going to have to repay that money to the consumer, and they're going to have a massive fine against them.
Hey, Tony, do we chalk this up as the cost of doing business, a fee for convenience that we pay on a lot of different things?
Great question. So what we're really dealing with is this stampede to the lowest price wins. We see it in the airline industry. We see it everywhere. We go, oh, my God, that seat's only this amount of money, but the time you add on all the other charges. Same thing's happening here. Is they've said, this is your fee. And then next thing you know, if you read the fine print, they've got a host of other fees that they're charging you. And what you thought you were going to pay versus what you are going to pay is materially different. What they're hoping for is I've already got the effort. I picked the food I want. I've ordered it. So a few bucks here or a few bucks there turns into $1 billion of problems. And they're also hiding some fees and tips. And if we have time, this isn't the first time this organization has been called to the courts for what we would call misleading practices.
So, and by the way, by the time you're checking out, you're probably really hungry and you probably don't have the patience to go through another app. I want to point that out. I've been there, done that. When it comes to hidden fees, what should customers be looking for? How do you spot that?
Well, what we should be doing is having our government come in and say there's no hidden fees. This is the actual price you're going to pay. This is the actual taxes you're going to pay. Because there's so many different ways you can mislead it, and you don't know who's on first and who's on second. So if you're a consumer and you're looking at it, the only reality is before you check out and click to pay with your Apple Pay, take a look at the final number because it could be some sticker price shock in there for you. And this has to stop because although we're consumed by the lowest price wins, the reality is it's not really the lowest price. So therefore, that's why these allegations of drip pricing, something that only actually occurred since 2023 when our government started to realize that all this ordering online comes with some suspicious behavior.
Hey, Tony, we were talking about this, chatting about this, if you will, in the newsroom. How is this different from, airline bundling when we go to purchase a flight?
It's a great question again. And the reality is we came down on the airlines and said you can no longer do that. You have to charge the exact price. All the taxes, all the surcharges have to be included. So it can't be added on. And then if there's extras for baggage or seats, and pretty soon with the airlines, they'll probably charge you for the toilets, that they have to be very upfront with it. And at least you have a sense of what you're paying for. We're in an affordability crisis. It's the last thing you want to do is say to the consumer this sort of bait and switch that looks great, but the reality is it comes with a lot of window dressing in the form of more money out of your pocket. And the other thing you've got to because I think it's important to realize that this company has had charged for not giving out the tips they collect on behalf of their drivers, data breaches, selling our data. So this isn't the first time this organization is being accused, most of that in the United States, but it's something to be aware of when you're choosing brands. Who do I trust to give my money to?
Finally, Tony, we know the Competition Bureau is calling on DoorDash to stop its deceptive advertising, pay a penalty, and offer restitution to affected customers. What message do you think that sends to companies like Uber and Skip the Dishes?
Well, I think there's a massive opportunity because if they're not doing this practice, if they are just declaring that this transparency and authenticity in their pricing, I'd be going full in with an advertising campaign by saying we're the brand you can trust. Because the reality is I just want that product delivered to me in the fastest amount of time, and I want it delivered hot. So I don't really care which one of those products I'm using. So I'm going to use the one I trust the most. And that's what branding is all about, is trust. This is an opportunity for them. DoorDash has got to find a way to earn my trust back again.
All right, Tony Chapman, host of the Chatter That Matters podcast. Hey, thanks a lot, Tony.
Thanks, Tony.
Always a pleasure.
It's 5:56, 23 degrees. This is Live at 5.
The Stanley Cup final shifts to Florida tonight. We'll preview Game 3 of the Edmonton Oilers versus the Panthers next.
5:59, this is Toronto's breaking news, CP24.
And we'll leave you with this live shot of the Gardiner Expressway. It's a busy drive out there. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. CTV News at 6 is next.